my tie for third place, so we know I have them as 79 and 83. The Cincinnati Reds. Now, this is only because they had some people, they got rid of some people and went more with the youth movement. I still think they're better than the Cubs. I think there's more energy within this organization, but we will see. It all still has to play out. We'll see. I did the Reds episode with my buddy Scott Utz. I'd love to have his take on this, especially after all people they got rid of. So they have some excitement. Hunter Green's finally making his major league debut and start. I think tomorrow. Is today Saturday? Tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to seeing this kid pitch. He's been through a lot. It's a name baseballers have known for a long time since he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a high schooler. It's just a really great story, and it shows what Major League can do and what they can produce if they invest the money into inner city baseball. It's ridiculous. That's another story altogether. But this kid has just flames coming out his arm. Doesn't throw quite as hard as he did before his surgery, but good kid. I can't wait to see him watch. I'm rooting for him, and you're going to see him pitch tomorrow. Let's take a look at their lineup. So Jonathan India is a really great player. Hopefully he takes another step forward. He missed out on a 30 and 30 year last year, I believe, only because of rain out. He actually got his 30th stolen base, if I'm remembering this all correctly. It's all kind of jumbling, but Tyler Naquin has to stay healthy. I mean, he's not a superstar. He's a average major league player. Had some good years with the Indians, but he couldn't stay healthy. But he's a nice addition to your team if you have talent around him and he doesn't have to carry the weight in any way or shape or form. So we'll see. Moustakas has to have a better year for them to be able to compete. That's just all there is to it. He struck out a ton. They picked up Tommy Pham, which is good. This lineup isn't horrible, but it's not what it was last year. There's gonna be a lot of pressure on Joey Votto to have another good year. I guess the 2020 was his down year. He's older, and I know there's a lot of sentiment on the Reds and Reds fandom that would like to see him moved to a winner. Joey's been on this team since he came up, and he's a lifelong Mets or Reds player, but do the Reds owe it to him to send him somewhere where he can compete for a World Series? I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know how Joey feels about it. Maybe he just wants to stay a Red. I mean, most players, they won a title. They played this long and won a title. So I have to believe if his wishes, if he wants to go to a World Series, and also on the same note, he is a Reds fan and he understands his bargaining value, especially if he's having a good year. They can get some pieces for him going down the stretch. So if the Reds are not in contention, which they more than likely won't be, and they see they can move Votto to get him in a position to win a World Series, to satisfy his desires, and also get some young talent back in return, I think that's a win-win for the organization. And I know there's players that are fans that are purists that want him to stay with the Reds no matter what. I get that. I get that feeling. It would be great if players can stay with their team, but if you're a fan of that team and you want them to be competitive for years in the future, some of these business moves have to happen. Enjoy your time and be grateful for your time with Joey Votto, and wish him well. Root for him getting to a World Series and getting a ring. And maybe he comes back. Who knows? Maybe he comes back. I have not looked at his contract situation, but maybe he comes back or finishes with the Reds or whatever. I mean, I think he's 37, 38, maybe 38. I'm not really sure. But he's up there. And so if he can prove to have another consistent year, a good year this year, he struck out more this year. He went for power versus contact this year. He made that shift. It paid off in home runs and RBIs, not in the average, but so we'll see. So again, this lineup isn't bad. Moustakas stay healthy. Votto has another year. Tommy Pham, having a good year. Some nice young pieces there too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Their pitching staff I already mentioned. Hunter Green, Lucas Sims is the closer. This is not a bad staff. It's not great either. It's better than the Cubs just because they have change in velocity. You have Hunter Green that's going to throw 100 miles an hour, and the Cubs have, whole bunch of pitchers that throw 98 or 89 rather. Um, so, so again, my pick, having them tied with the Cubs is more of a homer pick. I get that. I get that. Do I think realistic the Reds finish above the Cubs, even with what they lost? I do. I think Reds fans are down. A lot of Reds fans that I've read are down on this team because of the moves they made this spring. But there's still a lot to look forward to. Again, their farm system, I think, is a little misleading. I have them at 16. I think they're rising through that. I think they're rebuilding that. I think they're not as far off. I think it's that one of those 1 year. I think I wouldn't be surprised if next year they're down to like 12 or so, or up to 12. They have money to spend. They're at 21 payroll wise. It's just a matter if they want to spend it. So I don't foresee that. I don't see them making a trade at the deadline that betters them in the sense of making the playoffs this year. I don't think you get rid of young talent with this team to make the playoffs for 1 year. But we'll see. We'll see how they do and where they're at the deadline. But I think with those National League East teams, much stronger than this division, I think you're going to see the wild cards come out of there, and maybe one out of this division, not two for sure. There's no way 2 wild cards are coming out of this division. So if the Reds can get up into that position, we'll see. Can they get to close to the 90 win mark that would take to probably make the playoffs, and probably even more? That's a stretch. That's a stretch. They had 83 wins last year, and I don't think there's anybody that thinks this team's better than last year's team. So we'll see. We'll see. Look at some of their prospects again. You have Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo is also a pitcher that you're going to see. Tyler Stevenson, catcher, is a great prospect. He's going to be your starting catcher. I don't know why I put the left-handed pitcher on the other side of Brandon Williamson. And I put Eli De La Cruz on there. He's not ready, but he is a guy to watch. We'll see how he rises within the system this year. He is electric. Fans are going to love him. I think he's untouchable from the organizational standpoint, so they're not getting rid of him. I know everybody's going to ask about him, but he's not going to. So again, if these guys these young kids step up and show some things, I think there's a lot to look forward to for next year for the Reds. I think this year is going to be a struggle. I think that makes sense for them to struggle this year, kind of a transitional year for them. But they have some good arms. They have some really good arms that are ready to help now. Do they have the young arms that the Marlins do in the East? No, but if these guys all pan out, and they have some other ones ready to go too. Beyond that, that level there that you're seeing with Stevenson and Green in that group, there's a big gap. Now you're looking at the 24 or 25 season with these A-ball and rookie league players. So their farm system is not as weak as the 16 rank indicates, but it's young. It's young. They do have some major league ready talent right now that'll help this year and next year. But beyond that, there's a big gap there. So we'll see how they fill in the pieces at the trade deadline, perhaps, or in the offseason, again, with some money to spend and so forth, and moving some pieces around. We'll see what they do. I'm always rooting for them. Being an Ohio kid, Indians and Cubs are my loves. But again, I always want to see teams do successfully, except for maybe a couple. And actually, one of the ones that I always root against, I'm actually kind of pulling for this year, the White Sox. That's a fun team. And now, don't get me wrong, I don't like the White Sox or their fans. Sorry, I said it. Bobby Mack's going to come on in a couple weeks and give me shit about that. But that's a fun team. It's a fun team to watch. So I'm rooting for guys to do well. I pay attention to a lot of these minor leaguers, so I'm rooting for individuals as well. That sometimes changes my picture of the team and organization often. So we'll see. So that is my third place teams, the Reds and the Cubs. And again, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Reds beat the Cubs. Now, on the flip side of that, could I see the Reds tanking as well? I absolutely could. I think it's more likely the Cubs win 65 games than the Reds do. But are the Reds capable of only winning 65 games? Hell yeah. Yeah, they are. Especially if they have some injuries in there. These pitchers don't pan out or they're not quite ready. It can happen, but more likely the Cubs, tank a little bit worse than the Reds. So there's your look at the Reds. I think, again, I have them at 79 and 83, tied for third in the American League Central.